Hi everyone, welcome to week 2. It's great to have you back. It was fun getting to learn a lot about you in the discussion forum where you got to share what things you're into, what you like to do for fun. It was really enjoyable getting to know you better and seeing you make some connections with other students who are in this in the online section, or maybe even the seated section, or there's a lot of students who are doing both BT and cosmetology, and so you got to make some connections that way. So it was really exciting to see you do that. Let's talk about what's happening this week. So week 2, we are going to start with the very first Excel module. Now, if you've done Microsoft Excel before, this is just going to be a refresher module for you. And it'll probably move really quickly for you, and you won't have to spend as much time on it as somebody who's not familiar with Excel. So what happens is every week you're going to have a practice activity, which is the SAM training, which we talked about last week. So last week you should have done the module on the SAM training, the SAM exam, and the project, so you could see how to do each of those 3 tasks. So this week we're starting with Excel Module 1, which is creating a worksheet and a chart, and then you're going to do the SAM training, which is not graded, but it is identical to the SAM exam. And so what I encourage you to do is that you do them both at the same time. Now, if you have a big enough screen, you can split the screen. That's great. If you have 2 screens, even better. If you don't, do the best you can to kind of go back and forth between the 2. What you don't have to do is you don't have to do the SAM training, try and memorize it, and then do the SAM exam. I encourage you to do them at the same time because the tasks are identical, and that'll just reinforce it for you a little bit more as you go. You can also reference those as you're doing the projects. And so your graded assignments will be the SAM exam, Project 1A, and Project 1B. You will also have a hands-on mini eBasket assignment where you start from scratch and you create a file in Excel and demonstrate a few of the skills that you learned in this particular module. And they're not terribly hard. They're just a little bit different because the SAM Project 1A and 1B are going to be already started for you. So you'll have the instruction file and the start file. The eBasket assignments are you're going to start with a blank Excel file, and you're going to have to start from scratch. And this week, all of your graded assignments are due by Monday, January 26th, 11:59 p.m. And just remember, you have 3 days after that it could be late, but you lose 10% per day. And then down here, I just have that helpful reminder to just do the SAM training and the SAM exam at the same time. So let's go back to the module. And you're going to see we just went through the schedule. In here is what I call the quick guide. Previously, I used to reference it as the playbook, and I really didn't like that name because the playbook isn't a good explanation of what exactly it is. But what I have done for the first 4 modules is where we have a lot of the little bit of information behind why we do some things in Excel. I don't have these for all the modules, just modules 1 through 4. So this is the module quick guide for module 1, and I've put a variety of different things in here for you, especially if you're not familiar with Excel. This will help explain some of the why behind Excel and what we use it for. Now, I'm not going to go through everything, but I just want to point a few things out. So if you're ever in a class and you create a file name, actually let me go down here. Let me back up a little bit. That's not quite there yet. Let's focus on numeric data. So in Excel, you could enter numeric data using any of the numbers 0 through 9, and then these are the characters we use. We use the plus sign for adding, the minus sign for subtraction or negatives. We use parentheses just like you would do in algebra. So you have the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or PEMDAS, where you have the order of operations. That's what we use the parentheses for. Then we have the forward slash for divide. We use dollar signs. And then we have E's for exponents. Now, we're not going to worry about any exponents in this class, but I just wanted you to be familiar with the numbers. And then If you're working with numeric data but you want to enter it as a text, because if you enter numbers in Excel, it's going to assume you want to do something with it, like add it, subtract it, multiply it, different things like that. You want to put an apostrophe before that number if you want it to be part of a text, to keep it from trying to use it in a calculation and different things like that. There's a little section that talks about a formula. I just want you to understand the difference between a formula. A formula is, for example, cell A1 plus cell B1, where a function is a predefined formula that's already built into Excel by Microsoft, and that would be something like the average, the sum, the if, and we call those functions. They're formulas, but they're in a pre-built function. And this is just some information that talks about what that is. And so I'm going to leave that for you to check out on your own. What I do want to point out is I added this section here about other ways to do things. So you're going to see in the SAM training and SAM exam a particular way that something is demonstrated. You may watch my video of me walking through a project and you might see me do it a different way. That's just to let you know that you can do one task sometimes 4 different ways in Microsoft Excel. And it doesn't mean one way is better than the other. It's just a personal preference on what you're most comfortable with and how to get there. And so that's why I put that in this section. You also have to do in your little e-basket, you have to use these functions or couple of these functions. And so I've included in here what the average, the max, and the min functions. And so if you've taken statistics, either a basic class or maybe a business class at the College of Business about statistics, this is what these are statistical functions. And so we are using these little functions in this particular module. This just talks about why you should save your workbook and where you should save your workbook. Tips for saving your workbook. This is what I was going to share with you a minute ago. If you're ever working in a class and you try and save a file and it doesn't like it or it won't let you, usually it's because you have a character in there that you can't use. So backslash, forward slash, colon, asterisk, question mark, quotation mark, and the greater and less than symbol in the vertical bar, you can't put those in the name of a file. It'll get mad at you and won't let you save it. So just keep that in mind as you're saving your files. Now for this class, it tells you what to save your file as, but if you're working on your e-basket, I don't tell you what to save that file as. Just make sure you're saving it without any of those characters. The other thing you need to know is in this class, you have the ability, if you go up to the menu, or the ribbon, which is across the top, you have the ability to go to the File tab and then go down to the Save option and change your auto recover to every 1 minute. So the standard is 10. So if you're working in Excel and you haven't changed the setting, there's a possibility that if your computer shuts down or there's a power bump or something happens, with the powers that be at our fingertips and sometimes the little gremlins that live inside our computers, you could lose some of the data you've worked on. So I encourage students to change their auto recover settings and change them from 10 minutes down to 1 minute so you lose very little if something does happen to your computer. Then we have formatting the worksheet. You don't have to memorize any of this. This is just a rule of thumb. How do we format a worksheet? And this is just a screenshot from the book of this is how a worksheet's formatted. So we have our title, our subtitle. Now, a lot of times you don't see subtitles. I don't use a lot of subtitles, but they're there. And then what we have is we've got some color coding going on. There's a little bit about what type of font works really good, and the book doesn't go into this a lot. And the other thing you should know is you don't have to read the book. You don't have to read the text. The book is there just so you know if there's something in the SAM training and the SAM exam that you don't understand or you can't figure out or it's not making sense, you can go into the book and the book will explain it a little bit more in depth. And then it talks about font size and the accounting format. And so when we're working with a lot of documents, we're working in what we call the accounting format. So this isn't required information for you. This is just a guide I put together to kind of help you along if you're not familiar with Excel and some of the things going on in the background. It's just an optional reference guide if you need it. Okay, so you found the different videos for this week. There is the overview video, which you're watching, and then I have Project 1A that I walk you through, and then you're on your own to do Project 1B and the SAM exam, and then there's a video on the file management. So make sure you watch that. In this class, you need to save all of your files for this class in an organized fashion. It doesn't matter to me. Everybody's going to do it a little different, and you might do it on a flash drive. You might do it in Google Drive. I'll just warn you, if you do a flash drive, be careful with your flash drive, because last semester I had a couple students, and this happens every semester, where they bump their flash drive or it's overused and they disconnect the part that plugs in the computer with the rest of it, and then they couldn't access their files. Like, they lost everything that they've been working on all semester. So find a good way to save your files and save them in folders. So create an assignments folder, put your assignments in there, put your e-baskets in a folder, and keep them nice and neat. And then at midterm, at the end of the semester, we do a file management checkup. It's really easy points for you to show me that you've kept your files organized. And the purpose of this is just to get you in the habit of saving your files in a way that they can be found by yourself. And also, when you work different places, there are a lot of times shared folders and shared groups where everybody accesses files, and they have to be able to find your files. So it's just a good habit of practicing and getting used to that. Okay, the next section in this module are all of the assignment links. So I put the book in there. If you're working through the SAM training or the SAM exam, technically this should be the SAM exam, so I'm going to fix that after I close this video out. But you have, oh no, sorry, this is okay. SAM training should be here. SAM exam's right here. Sorry about that. My eyes are getting a little tired this week. So training is just for practice. The SAM exam is identical to the training. However, once in a great while, students will tell me that there is one task, I can't remember which module it is, where it wasn't demonstrated in the training, and so that's when I would tell you to go to the book. So the book is here for you to go in, and if you're not quite clear on the SAM training or why you do something, you might want to look at a different way, you can check out the book. The book is not there to be meant to be read, because this is not the best reading material. It's more of a reference manual on how to complete certain tasks. Okay, so you have the SAM training and the SAM exam, which are identical, but the SAM exam is the only thing that you get points for. You've got Project 1A, Project 1B that are linked into Cengage, and then you have the laptop comparison assignment. And so the laptop comparison assignment is a hands-on, start from scratch assignment. So what you have to do is open Excel, and you're going to create it from scratch. And so you're going to choose 3 laptops, and you're going to enter that data into this worksheet. You're going to apply the average laptop function. So you're going to do 2 functions, or let me back up. You're going to do 1 function. You're going to do the average function, and you're going to do it for the laptop price and the warranty cost. You're going to add a title and a subtitle. Now, you don't have to do subtitles. I am not a subtitle person, so I'm not going to mark you off if you have just a title. And then you need to make sure you have column headings. Your numbers are formatted, whether it's currency, that you've got commas in where you have numbers that are, in the thousands, and that it looks clean, and that's it. So this is the rubric and what I graded on. I just want a good deliverable file that you could hand to somebody and say, okay, look at this, and it'll tell them, the comparison of 3 computers. And so let's go back to the main page really quick. And so what you're going to see is the laptop comparison, and I have some examples out there for you. This one I just have one example. So I'm going to download this so you can see it outside the window. So something you should know about Canvas if you don't already. So Canvas has an internal viewer window. That is what's right here. And then you have the ability to download the file. You're going to find sometimes when you submit assignments for eBaskets that it's going to look different here than what it actually would look like in the file. Don't panic. I can download your files. I don't grade it by what I can view in the viewer, Canvas viewer. I grade it by the file that you attach. And so I'm going to open that file. And this is just an example from a previous student. So they created this spreadsheet. So here's the title. No need for a subtitle. Then they chose 3 computers, okay? HP, Dell, and another HP. They put the specs in. They put the price of each computer. They put in the extended warranty. And then over here on the right, they did that function, the average function for C3. That's our reference. So cell C3. And the colon means it creates a range. So the range C3 through C5. And then over here we have D3 through D5. Then they did a very basic chart, which you're going to learn about charts as we go through each module. And that's an example of what one student put together. So you can see that the Dell costs a little bit more. Now I'm going to go click on example 2. This is something that another student did. So this student really loved Excel. They had taken Excel before and they wanted to make something really fancy and really detailed, and that was fine with me, but it's not a requirement. For me, I'm more of a simple person, but if you want to do something detailed, that's completely fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, so that's your eBasket. Those are your examples, and I'm not going to, if one person turns in a really elaborate eBasket and one turns in a basic one, as long as you have what's required in the rubric, everybody gets the points the same. All right, so that's all I have for you for week 2. Also, keep in mind, for those of you who are online, you can work ahead. Everything is open throughout the entire semester. So with the upcoming holiday on Monday, if you're bored and you're really liking Excel, or you just want to get it over with and move on, you can definitely move on. Just know that each week my videos are done weekly, and so I have not updated my weekly video for next week yet. All right, this is probably the longest video you're going to see for a weekly video. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.